Hey everyone, I'm doing something a little extra today. I didn't think this warranted an entire YouTube tutorial, so I thought it would be a good thing for a Patreon exclusive. This is the crown that I made for Rune a while back. I'm going to show you how I did that. I have a couple crowns that I owe somebody and figured this would be a good opportunity to show how I did it. So this is the material that I'm going to be using. This is lamp banding. I got this from Etsy, but you can find it at some hobby stores. Weirdly enough, I saw some lamp banding recently at Hobby Lobby. I don't know if they have it all the time, but I'm going to go back and look at some point to see if I can make some more crowns in different styles. The piece that I have should be enough to make a couple crowns, so we'll see how far I get. I'm going to just assemble this video as it comes straight off my camera. Unfortunately, I don't really have time to do more than that, so it's going to be a little bit more like if I were streaming this. At some point I'd like to get back to streaming on Twitch or something like that, but right now I just don't have time. So this is the size that I need to make. Oh, my battery light is already flashing. That's great. I'll just keep going as long as I can. This is the size that I need to make. I know that much for sure, so I'm going to kind of roll this around here to see how big I need it to be. This is a 9-10 inch doll that I'm making this for. And that's going to end right here. Alright, so I'm gonna cut it right here. To cut this, you can use little wire cutters. I've got wire cutters here. You can also use scissors if you don't mind dulling them, but I am using 10 snips. Because go big or go home, something like that. So the first crown that I'm going to make, I'm going to leave super tall because that was what was requested, but then I'm also going to make her two more out of what's left here. So I guess I'll go ahead and try to cut that. It looks like I should have just enough to do that. So that's pretty exciting. I've got just the tiniest scrap bit of metal left after all is said and done. I'll hang on to that filigree so that I can find that pattern again if I need it. So you probably noticed that this one is the lower half. So I'm going to end up cutting down the middle here. Let's see, trying to remember how high I cut it up. It was right across the top here. This is kind of tricky with these gigantic 10 snips, but they are really powerful, so they're easier on my hands despite being really awkward to use for this. Snip, snip, snip. I'm going along the top of that band in the middle of the fleur-de-lis there. I guess that's what that is. It looks like it. Oh, that sounds horrible. I can kind of bend it as I go to make more room, but it's going to end up pretty mangled as I go. I'll have to do a lot of reshaping. The first one is going to be the easiest, so I'll just show you that one, and then I'll come back to this. I just want to cut everything so that I can get these giant cutters off my desk. Goodness. Alright, almost there. There we go. So that'll be two crowns, and then there's the big one. It's unfortunately not really gold, it's painted, so there'll be gold flakes everywhere that I'll need to clean up. So most of it you can just kind of shape it by hand, which is really easy. You just want to go very slowly and make very small adjustments bending along this bottom band. The top is a little easier to adjust. Let's see. I feel like it's cleanest if I go this way. There. Now right here you can see that because of being cut it's a little bit warped. In order to mash that together, I'm going to cover it with felt so that I don't scratch up the metal, and then pinch it with pliers. These are just jewelry pliers, but like needle nose pliers would work. I have lots of jewelry pliers because I used to sell jewelry on Etsy a long time ago, back when I first got married. That was part of what I used to pay for my first doll. Except then I ended up not paying for him because my dad really wanted to help, so I just used that money to get sewing supplies, and here I am now. Alright, so that looks alright. You're always going to have a little bit of a seam there, and there's not too much you can do about it, but I guess if you were good at soldering you could do that. Once it's glued and dry, you can go back and reshape the edges. Another good option that I have not done to runes, but I'm going to at some point, is, you know, once you've gone in, you've smoothed everything out, consider putting hot glue around the inside edge or gluing in some felt on the inside. Otherwise, the crown might scratch your doll because this is metal. It's just aluminum, but it is metal and the edges can be sharp. So I'm going to switch my battery real quick and then I'm going to grab the glue. Okay, so I just grabbed the glue. Since I'm using E6000, the stuff is really smelly and you're not supposed to inhale the vapors. So I'm going to wait and glue all 3 crowns together and stick them in my vented spray booth, because then I can leave the room and leave that running and I won't have to breathe this stuff. So I'm going to set this one aside for now and we're going to work on the smaller ones. So this one, the biggest thing here is going to be reshaping these into points because they're just kind of flat on top. They're warped from me cutting them. So these are round nose jewelry pliers. I'm just gonna grab it with that and bend that back. And it's kind of a rolling motion where, you know, I pinch here and just kind of roll it under, and that did not work as well as I thought it would. Some parts will be harder to bend. This one is harder to bend because as you bend metal it begins to anneal and it gets harder and more brittle. So some places, if they're particularly bent, may be more challenging than others to try to reshape. I'll start down here at this end, I guess, and work my way across. Okay, so after I bend it back, try to get it mostly pointy, then I pinch these curled pieces flat with these flat jewelry pliers. And that way it lays nicely. You can cut pretty much any kind of banding that you find, so look for one that has a pattern where you think you can split the pieces easily to cut them down to a better size for dolls. There were a lot of thinner banding pieces that I saw on Etsy, but a lot of them came in lengths that were just ridiculous. Like, I don't need to buy 20 feet of lamp banding for a doll crown. What would I do with the rest of it? I guess I would be making everybody crowns, but I don't really want to do that. I'm sorry if I'm bumping the camera with the end of this thing. can't really help where I'm set up, and my overhead mount is just made out of PVC pipe, so if I bump it, it really bounces. Someday I'd like to get a really nice, like, real overhead mount, or maybe build one out of wood, but I don't have the resources for that right now. We'll just stick with this, because it's worked for a few years. It should be okay for a little longer. Oh, that did not go. That one just unfolded. Okay. There are a couple pieces along the top here where there's still some little nubs sticking up, so I'm going to just trim those with my wire cutters, make them a little prettier. You could trim the edges here as well, but then you would still have to curl down the sides so that you didn't have sharp edges. I figure if it's turned to the inside, it doesn't show, so it doesn't really matter. Okay, that was alright. And then just like the other one, it's just a matter of very gently bending along the band to slowly make this into a circle. I think I will probably put some felt on the inside edges of these just so that they don't scratch her doll. I feel kind of bad because this is really overdue, but I did not expect some of the stuff that came up with, like, moving and getting used to being a school parent. But I'm slowly catching up on everything. Okay. Is that the same size? Yeah, it's the same size. I've got a much bigger overlap here than I thought. I must have mismeasured something somehow. That's okay. Alright, so I'm actually gonna cut, I guess, right here. That can go in the recycle bin. There we go. I'm going to turn it this way so that I can see a little better as I mash this part this time. It doesn't really need a lot. Just want to make sure it fits smoothly. There. Folding the metal, like curving the metal, can make these little creased marks here because this is squared and it doesn't like to go into a circle. But that's another place where, you know, you can go back in with the pliers and even those out a little bit as you go along. See, that's a lot smoother. So I'll probably do that after it's glued, just to make sure that I can get it really nice and round as I go. See? Cute. I may adjust these a little bit more here. Some of them are a little flatter than others. There we go. There. Okay, so that one's ready for glue. And then last of all is this one, which is just going to become a really delicate little tiara. The biggest issue on here is right there where we cut. That's a little bit sharp, so that's another place where we're just going to take it and curl it under. I may actually trim some of these little points off just to be sure that nothing scratches. Well, no, because that can be covered with glue. That'll be faster and easier and just as effective. Oops, I'm stuck on my felt. Those are all the outtakes that I usually edit out of the finished, polished videos. I try to be reasonably professional in most of those, which is difficult because I'm not the most professional person. I'm not the most skilled at what I do, but I try. And I think sometimes it's nice to watch somebody who just kind of does their best instead of being amazing at things, because it makes things feel a little bit more attainable. Before I started making videos, I used to watch a lot of other doll people do crafts and things, and I always felt so inferior because their stuff looked so nice. And I was like, why even bother? Because I can't do that. But it's not a good attitude to have. So sometimes I try to leave accidents in, and sometimes I have entire videos devoted to the stuff I mess up. Which, ironically, those usually end up being the best received. I don't know if that's just like internet culture or what. People love to see it when you get things wrong. I don't know if they like that, there's a word for that, and I can't remember it. There's a German word that, it means, like, literally stranger ashamed, where you just see something that somebody does and it's so embarrassing that you feel bad for them and you feel kind of embarrassed on their behalf. But people also kind of like seeing that, which is why when I was a kid those funny home video shows were really popular, because those were almost always people embarrassing themselves. There we go. Another thing I can do here is I have metal files, and I can actually take my files along the edges here to even them out some more, but I don't think that's going to be necessary. This is going to bend really easily because it's not on that square base, so it's going to be the same size. And I remember I had just said that I made it a little too big, so I'm going to go ahead and chop off one of these pretties here. Maybe. Oh, I did get it, okay. There we go. I can glue this right here in this one tiny spot, and that will be enough. So it just has to be rounded. And this one's tricky because it's a lot more delicate and I don't want to break anything. But there. I have a scrap like this from when I made Rune's Crown that I really want to use to make something for all at some point. Because I think that would be a really... Well, that stopped recording while I was talking. I think I'm going to grab my files and take just a little rasp along the edge just to make sure that there aren't any burrs on the bottom edges. Like I feel a little catch right here. It's not enough that it's a problem for me, but any little rough spots like that could easily scratch a doll. So I'm gonna grab my files and a mask. Okay, so I've got a paper towel here that I'm gonna put under where I do the filing, because that'll catch any metal shavings and I can just fold it up and throw it away. And I've also got a dust mask. This one was in the very bottom of the box, so it's a little smushed, but it's an N95. It's rated for particulate filtering, like up to 95%. This is similar to my respirator, but I'm not going to wear the respirator because metal does not have fumes, so I'll save that for another day. As long as a mask fits well and it's a particulate filter, then it's enough for this. And I also have protective glasses on, which I'm not going, well, I tried to take them off and they're stuck in my hair, so I'm not going to show you that right now. But I'm just gonna put on my mask and bump the camera while I'm doing it. That's great. Alright, so this is just an X-Acto file. That's the brand, X-Acto brand file. They were jewelry files that I got a long time ago. And that's all I'm doing, is just a few really quick rasps along the edge to take off any burrs. And it doesn't really show, but this definitely feels a lot smoother just from doing a couple quick little passes like that. So I should probably be wearing gloves. I didn't think about that. This one has a really bad little burr right here, and since I can see that, I'm going to use my wire cutters to trim it off. And then I will sand file where it was. Oh my goodness. That is my alarm reminding me to eat because it is lunchtime. And I will admit I'm very bad about that. I will forget to eat. Especially if I get really into a project. I will just forget. It's like I got more important things to do than eat lunch. This one has a burr as well. There we go. Okay, so there's a little dust on there. I don't think it really shows, but there's some shavings on there. I'll wipe off that. See if you can see it. That's why we wear the mask, because we definitely don't want to breathe that. Okay, so these are now ready for glue. Ugh, take off my dust mask. That thing is really hot, and it's already really hot in here. Okay, so I'm just gonna like double check how everything fits on each of these. Then we're gonna glue them. And that's pretty much all there is to it, so I think that's where I'm gonna end the video for today. So I'll put on some glue and show you how I clip them. And then we're gonna call it a day. So hopefully you enjoyed this little extra peek, even though it's a bit longer and more rambly than what you would see on YouTube. But I like being able to share little projects like this. So alright, use 6000 glue here. We'll put a bit here. And some on the top. This stuff is really stringy, but you can pull the strings back off after it's cured, so it's kind of like hot glue in that. Alright, so we smush it together. Make sure everything is lined up. And then clothespins. to hold it until everything is cured. Pretty. Ta-da! There's a crown. There's that one. Squish it in there real good. It's a little bit squishing out the bottom. I'll just wipe that off. Make sure it's lined up as good as I can get it. That looks good. Set it aside to dry. And then this is the last one. The last one, and it's gonna have way too much glue on it. Go ahead and cap that. And these are going straight into my vented booth. And we are gonna call that a day. There. So there's 1, 2, and 3 crowns. Alright, that's it. See you later, everybody.